The story of Seirei Gensouki begins with a boy apparently about to leave and holding a girl's hand saying he would come back in the future and marry her. After that the scene cuts to the present with this boy Haruto grown up and inside a bus. This bus that ends up losing control and hitting a train, causing an accident, after which a boy wakes up wondering where he was, and after the opening this boy is confused saying his name is Ryo but for some reason he is remembering of someone else's life. Haruto, don't worry, you'll understand. He goes out to pick some fruit and keeps remembering Haruto's life, remembering that he died in a traffic accident, but despite remembering that he doesn't even know what it's traffic. That's because Ryo lives in a fantasy world and obviously in this world there are no vehicles. He decides to forget about it and remembers why he's living in that bad situation in the favela, which is to avenge his mother. Then a group of girls dressed in white asking him if he saw a girl with purple hair. I don't even know what color that is. He says he didn't see her, and one of these girls uses a spell to locate magical powers in the hope of finding her, but the only magical power she sees comes from Ryo. She thanks him for the information he gave and gives him a payment in silver coins, since he didn't even give information, but that's okay. He hides the coins in his shirt, and when he returns to tavern that was a murderer tries to kill him but the coins dampen attack. Out of nowhere a girl with pink hair appears calling him Haruto and teaches him to control his magic power, making him able to fight against this murderer and defeat him without many difficulty. After the fight he looks to the side and sees a bag moving. Inside the bag was the kidnapped princess that the others were looking for. He hands her over to them and is soon accused of kidnapping. He tries to explain that he saved her, but a really annoying girl doesn't let him talk and keeps accusing him, so he's taken to the castle for interrogation. He's pinned to the wall and gets beaten up by a guy forcing him to talk. Shortly afterwards the princess he saved wakes up and finds out that he was in that situation, forcing his subjects to take him out. When they let him go he faints and wakes up healed in a room in the castle. Who healed him was Celia, the girl who asked him for information and paid him before. He thanks her for her help and she says the king wanted to see him. The first episode ends with him well dressed and introducing himself to the king. Next, Celia asks him if he could read and write and he replies that he was never taught, so she says she would teach him and sends him to school. What do you mean school? For saving the princess he was admitted to the Royal Academy. Arriving in the classroom he is mocked by his classmates for being poor, but he doesn't pay much attention to it, and after class he meets Celia, who is a teacher at this academy, for a private lesson in reading and writing. There she gives some math braces for him to do and he solves them all without difficulty. She is impressed and says that in the whole class there is only one princess who can solve them. He can solve them because he has the memories of Haruto's life and he knew how to solve these accounts. After that his class has a fencing class and the teacher asks him to attack him. Ryo again remembers Haruto's life, and in those memories Haruto was training sword with his father, which made Ryo already know how to fight while he was still. Across the schoolyard he remembers once again Haruto's life and remembers Mi-chan, the girl who promised to marry the prota when they were both children. He stops thinking about it, saying that he is no longer Haruto and now he is Ryo, and later the result of the test he took at school comes out and he ties in first place with the princess in his class. It's not the same princess he rescued, but a baggy rich guy keeps accusing him of cheating on the test. This one the accusation doesn't last long because he takes a swipe from the princess and the teacher and leave. Then he goes to the teacher's room and the two have a conversation that ends in them making a bond of friendship. The scene cuts showing the students getting together in the schoolyard and a teacher choosing some of them for a night's tournament that would take place at the school. Ryo is chosen and once again that annoying rich boy keeps complaining. Then he goes to Professor Celia's room again and she notices that he got taller. He says that's obvious since it's been 5 years. Yes, the anime had a time skip of 5 years. They talk about the future where she asks what he intends to do from then on since he doesn't want it to be a knight, and he says he wants to travel abroad to a place called Yagumo, which is where his mother promised to take him when he was a child. On the day of the knight's tournament Ryo is pitted against the guy who interrogated him in the past and he injured him several times at that time. Thanks to that he was demoted and he was pissed at the protagonist until today. The two fight and he can't even express his frustration properly because he soon loses the fight. The scene cuts showing him venting about it while getting drunk with a strange guy, the one who was involved in the kidnapping of the princess and killed a survivor to hide clues. The second episode ends with a girl declaring herself to the protagonist for having won the fight and Celia seeing everything hidden and with very jealous. Another day in class, Celia asks the students to cast a spell called lighting, but the students complain saying it was too basic, and that naughty rich guy takes the opportunity to mock Ryo saying he doesn't have magic. Celia then returns the swipe saying that they didn't master this magic right and show how to use it for real. That's when we discover that the prota can't use magic in a natural way, but imitate the flow of magic power. thus reproducing the spell. If you didn't understand this part, relax that I not either. Then his group goes to do field training where they should get to the other side of the forest by crossing a mountain. Another rich bastard is making fun of Ryo and gives him the task of carrying everyone's luggage. There is an attack of goblins, but the students use magic and defeat them easily. This rich guy complains to the guy saying he was distracted, but not really. He was looking the other way because he realized he was being followed by that weird guy I mentioned before. They make a mistake and run into a cliff. Orcs arrive to attack them and that rich guy takes a spear in the leg and accidentally pushes the princess off the cliff. Ryo then uses his power to save her and land with security. He wonders what power he has since he's not a magic user. After that, this annoying rich guy accuses Ryo of having pushed her to get away. Ryo decides to leave the place but comes back to save the princess Flora when a giant monster tries to kill her. He has a difficult fight against it, but in the end he ends up winning by cutting the monster's head. We discover that this monster was sent by that strange guy from before who did this to test the real power from Ryo. He wonders if Ryo is the son of people who came from the Yagumo region because he can use spiritual arts even without even knowing what that is. Then Celia was walking down the hall when she hears a family plan real to blame Ryo for what happened in the forest. She tells Ryo and he says he's leaving the kingdom and the academy, going to Yagumo, and that he would send letters to her with the pseudonym of Haruto. They say goodbye with she saying she was going to wait for his letters, and he leaves. 3 days after leaving the kingdom of Beltrand, which is where he was, he arrives in a neighboring kingdom called Galark, which is a commercial kingdom, so he is happy knowing that he would find food quickly. Exploring the city, he finds a stall selling ramen and he finds it strange because he knows that ramen only existed in the world where Haruto lived. I think I don't need to explain anymore that Ryo has Haruto's memories, right? And that's why he knows about these things. The ramen seller explains that a girl created this recipe and Ryo is wondering if she came from the real world like Haruto. Walking a little further, he sees that they also sell dumplings there, which is more some food from the real world, and again this mysterious girl who invented. Now it's getting interesting. He does some takeaway shopping at the merchant guild and leaves. In the forest he finds a girl passed out, but she was pretending and attacks him with a dart poison to kill him. He uses healing power to remove the poison and the two begin to fight. During the fight he realizes that she was very focused on his knives and disarms her, thus defeating her. She begs him not to kill her there, but obviously he wasn't going to do that. He just arrested her so he wouldn't try anything and noticed a bondage collar around her neck, detail for the fact that she was half an animal and that's why she had the collar. She was a girl who was in the same Haruto's bus on the day of the accident that killed him, and she also died. Just like him, she was reborn into this world as this girl called Latifa, a half-animal slave to that rich boy from school in Rio who blamed Rio for having impure the princess of Cliff. He kept her in a prison and used this collar to hurt her if she didn't obey his order. When she finds out that Rio took her collar off, she cries with happiness, I imagine, and calms down. He asks her some questions like who sent her and such, and the last and most important question was if she would try to kill him again. She replies no, so he releases her. He tells her that in the direction he was going, to the east, there was a place where demi-humans lived together and tells her to go there, but she doesn't understand directions very well and decides to go with him. At first he denies it because he doesn't trust her, but then he ends up accepting it and the two continue their journey. After walking for a while they approach the wilderness where she should be staying, and Rio tells them to make camp for a while. At night Rio makes pasta for them to eat and she recognizes this food. He thinks it's strange that she recognizes this food but ignores it, and during the night when they were sleeping, she starts talking in her sleep saying she was afraid and wanted to go back to Tokyo. So Rio discovers that she is also from the real world just like him. Then they wake up in the morning and talk to her some more, wanting to call Rio Oni-chan, and he doesn't understand anything. ESEFOIO Resumo de Seirei Gensouki. Resumo dos por primeros episodios. If you want more, please like and subscribe.